In New Zealand, there are approximately 168,000 individuals living with visual impairments. In the population of 65 and older, there's 11% of. For the past 7 weeks, myself, Kerry McMullen, and my fellow occupational therapy student Eve Davis have been working with those with visual impairments in the Dunedin area. One of the services that we've been providing is teaching iPads for individuals with visual impairments. We've been teaching iPads and tablets because of the user-friendly interface and the accessibility features for those with visual impairments. 3 of our students are over 65 and 1 of them had never been on the internet before. Dr. Linley Hood experiences a visual impairment and is a strong advocate for those with visual impairments throughout Aotearoa.
Now if you're not online, or you get more and more socially isolated as more and more information goes online. There are a variety of ways, depending on the app and the program, to increase the size of print or increase the contrast, and I certainly use those. It's just kept me more connected with what's happening in the world. Articles about things I'm interested in are just so much more accessible.
For Dorothy, we had to consider that she'd never been on the internet before. She had very limited computer use. We had to work on her motivation to communicate with her family that lived away, so promoting what tools on an iPad would be useful for her and how they could be used with her visual impairment.
I have macular degeneration. Print is difficult. I now can't read the newspaper, the small print in the newspaper without using a magnifying glass. But with the iPad I realised that you could take it closer to your face, you could actually see the screen. And when I heard that classes were being offered, I thought, right, I'll have a go at this. And I figured that if I could work a cell phone, I'd probably work an iPad. And it is working. The best thing, I think, that I've found so far is the communication angle in terms of email and Skype. Now I can individually, without John doing anything, I can contact my children and grandchildren and do it, this way instead of writing. Writing letters has always been the way that I've communicated with people, but now I find I'm not staying on the lines on the pad, that I'll put the pen down and it'll go below the line or above the line, and that's that spatial thing that's difficult. The Dragon app is brilliant. Be able to speak an email and have it printed for you. And the other one that we looked at the other day, TED Talks, for a general sort of keeping up with what's going on in the world. Yes, very useful. If somebody could have a lend of an iPad to get started with and have tuition, then I think that would be very helpful until they decided, is this for me or not?
For Tom, we had to consider that it wasn't just him who needed to be taught, and we were able to extend the classes to include his wife so that they could learn together and support each other in their learning.
My visual impairment is related to my diabetes. I, with my one eye, attended a coaching course, a 2-day coaching course with an expert there, and he had a tablet. Looking at that demonstration of how it could be used in coaching, it could have helped me. And some of the other applications there looked to be convenient for me. Particularly if I take this coaching thing any further, I will be able to send pictures of people doing things. I can send it to them later or show it to other people. So I'm looking forward to doing some of that. My wife, Dorothy, has had more experience than me in data processing, and being able just with a finger to move screens is such a change from messing around with an ordinary computer.
For Eleanor, we had to consider her dyslexia. Therefore, resources were written in a very simple way, but what was more important was the one-on-one tuition, as she was a kinesthetic learner. She had to be talked through each app, and then she could learn through trial and error as she tried out the new app.
I'm pretty slow sometimes in picking things up, and I'm better with a one-on-one person, you know, rather than saying I have a teacher in the front and she does the whole class. Well, I find that it's over my head. I learn better from one-on-one. I've met Kerry and Eve, and they are the ones that help us, and I'm like a kid with a new toy. It's good fun. I'm enjoying every bit of it, and I hope it keeps going because I want to learn more.
We also considered with Eleanor that she'd been previously immobile and was very motivated to learn how to use the Countdown app in case that she was to become immobile again and that she would lose her independence.
Because I did actually lose my independence for a couple of years before I got my mobility scooter, so I don't want to go back to that because it was a very lonely life. Well, it's helped me to read, it's helped me to spell, it's got me mixing with other people who've got the same problem that I have.
Eleanor was very keen to use her iPad as a magnifier over her craft work, which she hadn't been able to do since losing her vision. We then had to consider further equipment, as such as an adjustable hands-free iPad stand, and how she could use that to hold the iPad over her work and use it as a magnifier. For Joy, we had to consider her carpal tunnel and the related loss of sensation in her hands. This had reduced her fine motor skills, and she therefore struggled with the coordination needed for tapping and swiping and enlarging on the iPad. We tried different techniques for how to tap on the iPad screen, but it was soon apparent that the best way for her to use an iPad was with a specific iPad pen. Once Joy was using the iPad pen, she was then able to use the iPad to use online banking. This was easier for her than on her mobile phone because the screen was bigger and it wasn't as heavy as using her laptop, which she can't carry around when she's out and about in town.
It's both being individual classes and having the material that you provide so we can come home and practice what we've learned before we forget. Because I find being in a small environment like we are down there at the library, and we've got one-on-one, it helps. Yeah, it's a big help. Yeah. Well, if you ring them up and want help, it costs you $2. You go into the actual post shop itself, it's going to cost you $1.50. Or if you need assistance to set up an automatic payment, that's $5. And, you know, that's to me a lot of money.
And so how much does it cost to do banking online?
As far as I know, it doesn't cost me anything.
There were many other things that Eve and I had to consider for effective learning. One of these things was having a large room with lots of natural light so that our students would be able to see clearly. It had to be warm and quiet and have Wi-Fi. We needed to provide the students with iPads that they could borrow so that they could then practice at home. And we also had to write resources that were written in large print in a way that they could read. So for some of our students that was with white writing on a black background, and for others it was black on white. The written resources need to be really thorough. They need to include the icons from the app so that they're recognisable, and they need to be written in an age-appropriate way while also being tailored to the individual's visual needs. Before we started the classes, we had to advertise them to a group with visual impairments. Some people were really keen and could see the benefits straight away, but others were a little bit more hesitant and shy of technology. Before we started the classes, we'd asked each student what their interests and needs were, and then we could individually tailor each class to our group's needs to keep them interested and to understand the applications. Other things to consider for future iPad classes is the ability to see the students twice a week and to set homework, so this encourages ongoing iPad classes. This also means that the students will need to be able to take their iPads home and preferably have Wi-Fi available to them.
What UOTs have been doing, it's just so important because vision loss is so isolating